Okay, what daf are we doing today?
We are on Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph, brand new parak. Now we are, two prakim behind us. Very exciting.
Go ahead.
Here we go. Mish Amar Harini Nazir, Megalech Yom Shleishim Ve'echad. Someone who says, I'm a Nazir, right? So he does Naziris. When does he cut his hair? Right? On day 31. But b'diavad, if he cut his hair on day 30, he is yatsa. And you're probably thinking mixas yom kakulai, which we learned yesterday, right? Part of the day is like a whole day. So as long as he kept any part of that day 30, and he cuts his hair on day 30, it's okay. But l'chatchila, we do want you to have 30 full days and cut your hair on day 31. What if he said something a little bit different? He didn't say Harini Nazir. He said Harini Nazir Shleishim Yom. I'm a Nazir for 30 days. Then that makes it sound much more like he wants 30 full days. So Mgilach Liyam Shleishim. Therefore, if he shaved on the 30th day, Lo Yatza, he will not. He is not Yatza his what he's supposed to do at the end of Nazirs because he had to wait until day 31. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Misha Nazir Shtei Naziris. Right? Guy is really excited here about being a Nazir, so he declared himself 2 Naziris. So, when do you do the hair cuttings? So, like we just said before, you're supposed to cut your hair on day 31. So that's for this first term. And Vesashniya Yom Shishim Ve'achad. The second term, he cuts his hair on day 61, which, if you think about it, means that day 31 counts as both the last day of the first term, mm-hmm, and also the first day of the second term. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You're right. Because day 1 is first day, right? So 31 should be the first day, but it's also the last day. Correct. But
similar to the Reisha, if he b'diavad did end up shaving his head on day 30, megalech es hashniya yom shishim, then he's able to shave his head for the second term on day 60 because day 1 of the second term was on day 30, which means day 30 of the second term is day 59, and then you cut your hair
31 starts the first day, and then you have 30 days.
Mm-hmm. I thought that, and then I read the note, and it said the way that I just explained it. But I think that, why can't that be?
Well, so what if he says, I'm going to do a double Naziris of
30 days.
30 days, yeah.
Right, so
you probably can't, like the ratio, you can't probably shave on
I would assume.
Because why is it any different than the ratio? And
maybe it's going to get to this case. That sounds like, so let's see. Now, what if though, if in this case where he said, I just want 2 Nazirs, he ended up shaving his head on day 59, he is still Yatza, because like we said, day 30 was both the last day, B'diavad was both the last day of the first term and the first day of the second term, which means day 59 is his 30th day. And we just said, B'diavad, you would be Yatza if you shave your head on day 30, because mixas yom kekulai.
Oh, because if he started on day 30, 59 is his second day 30.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Okay. So
interesting. Yom Shishim Chaser Echad. So more the Mishnah have something against the word 59.
You know what it is? You see it by Malchus. Arba'im Chaser Echad. See it by the Lamates Malachas. They say Arba'im Chaser Echad.
It wants to keep the term it usually says and play off of that.
I think so. I think we're already at that stage.
Right, interesting.
Because then also people remember, 40, 50.
Right.
It's like when you see a price, it's like $39.99.
Right. Right.
So you say 30, you're like, oh, it's $40.
Right. No, like 40 is the ikr. If you're going to change it, then you're going to have to minus it from 40. As opposed to the lamitas malachas, the reason we don't call them 40 minus 1 is because they're the lamitas malachas. Never started at 40 minus 1.
No, but I think in the Gemara it actually calls it 40
Oh, really?
minus 1. Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
We have to get to Gemara Shabbos.
Did you say the malachas? Or
malachas, and then I said also lamitas malachas.
okay.
I think both of them, there's that, a 40 minus 1 is like, it's a thing. It's a thing. How old are you, 40 minus 1?
I'm 40 minus 3.
Oh, okay.
Actually, 30 plus 7. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
What are you, like 20 minus 2?
I am
Or
3
do you
to the
act
4th
20
power.
minus? So you're pie. You're a piece of cake.
Okay. I want to keep it suspenseful for the listeners how old I am.
I love this. This guy Binyomin has to leave at 9:30, and he's the one
Okay.
allowing me to only have 30 minutes minus 2 left. Go ahead.
Vizu Eidos Heid Rebbe Papias. Ooh. And this testimony was testified to by Rebbe Papias, Almish and Nazir Shtei Naziris. About someone who said he's going to have 2 Naziris. Shem Gilach as Harishayna, Yoim Shleishim, Migalech as Ashnil Yom Shishim. That if he cut his hair for the first term on day 30, that he then cuts his hair for the second term on day 60. But that if he actually ended up b'diavad cutting his hair on day 59, he's still yatsa. Sheyayim shel shleishim oilalai min haminyan. Because day 30 is reckoned for him in the count of the second term as well as the first term. Mixas yom kukulai.
So really, he's supposed to shave on day 30 and 60, like we said in the Mishnah.
Ideally,
No, we said in the Mishnah it's supposed to be ideally 31, 31
Yes.
to get the full 30 days.
right.
But Rapapia says
Rapapias, I think, is saying the same thing. He's just saying, and this was what Rapapias was made. And it's literally
he
like
ended
kind of
up-
repeating what we just
he
said.
ended up doing day 30 and day 60. But if he shaved on day 60 minus 1, he has discharged his obligation because day 30 is reckoned for him in the count of the second term as well as the first term. So you have one, if he ended up doing a shaving on day 60, he ended up doing 59. It's okay because they're. What if you shave on day 29? That's not good because you don't have a full 30 days. Right.
Yeah, that we never said. That sounds like no go.
Misha Maredi Nazir. Go ahead.
Mish Amareni Nazir Nitma Yaim Shleishim, and then he became Tameh on day 30. Saiser Sakal. He loses all those days since he became Tameh during the term. And what do we say of someone who becomes Tameh during the term? He's got to start over, right?
And this is different than him cutting his hair on day 30?
Seems so, because we just said before, if you cut your hair on day 30, you're Yatza. You should do it on day 31, but if you ended up doing it on day 30, you're Yatza, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If he said Hareini Nazir. So obviously Tameh looks like it is different. Note 10 says, a Nazir who is contaminated by Tumah, corpse Tumah, while he is a Nazir, forfeits the days he has already observed. He must purify himself of the Tumah, shave his hair, bring offerings, and only then can he begin his term. The Mishnah teaches, however, that only if the Tumah happened during the term does one forfeit. If it happened after the conclusion of the term, even before the head shaving and concluding offerings, there is no forfeiture. But it just said on day 30, he seiser es hakol. So, according to Rav Masna, on day 30, the Nazir is still within his biblical term, and the Tumah necessitates the special sacrifice for Tumah of a Nazir. Although part of the day is considered a whole day, this is so only if the Nazir's term has been concluded with head shaving and the bringing of the conclusionary offerings.
Right.
So yes, you could say that mixes yom kukule, but it has to then be
Wrap
that
it
you got to wrap it up. That's right, Rebelli. You got to wrap it up
Rav Masna says...
So Rav Menashe, by the way, like all of a sudden we're calling in his name. If you recall, back in Daf Hey, Amin Aleph to Vav Amin Beis, there was a machlekes whether the standard term of Nazir is 30 days or 29 days. Do you recall? So it plays into this as well.
Right, because and Rav Masna said you need the 30 days.
30, and this mission is going within Rav Masna. At least right now, we're reading it all.
According to Bar Pada, who says you need 29 days and you become tummy on day 30.
I think you're good, right?
But you didn't do your
but you didn't do the concluding. Well, then we talked about this already in the last paragraph, where you're in this extension period.
Right. Okay, so in this Mishnah, assuming it's Bar Masna,
Yep.
someone says, I'm a Nazir, and he became tummy on day 30, Seiser Zakali. He forfeits all the days.
Yeah.
Rabbi Eliezer, in a Seiser Elisheba, he forfeits only 7 days, meaning what? He's not back to day 23, right? It just means that he needs to wait 7 days until he can become tahar and then bring the karbanas and shave his head.
Basically, it means he got his term in. He got the full 30. There's a side thing. Since he's tamei now, he can't bring karbanas. So, according to Ramasa, Eliezer considers the 30 days of the term to be satisfied as soon as the 30th day begins, right? Right after Shkia, right after, how do you say, Alais? How do you say sunrise in here?
Sunrise?
Yeah. Nates. Right after Nates. He's good, right?
According to Ramasa, Rabbi Eliezer considers the 30 days of the term to be satisfied as soon as the 30th day begins, the fraction of that day being counted as a whole day, even though the concluding rituals have not been performed. A person who became tummy on the 30th day is thus treated like someone who has become tummy after his term. The person who became tummy on the 3rd day is thus treated as someone who came after his term. The 7-day forfeiture, which takes place even according to Rabbi Eliezer, is not days of is not a forfeiture in the real sense of the term. The C7 are the 7 days of purification, which every person who became tummy from human course must observe. The Nazir cannot bring the offerings which conclude his Nazir's terms while he is tummy, because he must participate in offering procedure when the kohen places part of the offering on the Nazir's hand. Since the tummy may not enter the temple area, coming in contact with the offerings, the conclusion of the Nazir is deferred.
Right, the conclusion is deferred. That's basically what Rabbi Eliezer is saying. It's not a forfeiture of his Nazir. So he doesn't have to start his 30 days again, right?
So what is...
He just has to wait in order to be able to bring these karbanas, because he just can't bring them since he happens to be tamei.
What does the Tanakama say then? What does it mean he forfeits all the days?
It sounds like he's saying...
He has to start again.
Right. He just... Yeah. That is the root of the machlekes, it seems like.
Oh, so he has to wait 7 days according to the Tanakama and then start again.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so in that bonus day, if you already finished it, do you have to start again? Got it. And according to the Tanakama, if you shaved your head in the beginning of day 30 and brought your karbanas, you're good.
I think you're good. Yeah, right. Good then.
Okay.
Or any Nazir shleishim yaim. But if he said, I'm a Nazir for 30 days, nitma yaim shleishim seiser sakal. Even the Tanakama, because this is the same language as the first part, which 30 days, it's in the middle of his term. It's not like a post-term. All right? That's Harini Nazir mea yaim. Someone says, I'm a Nazir for 100 days. Nitma yoim mea, and he became tamei on day 100. Seiser sakal. It makes sense, because it's the same thing as like saying Nazir shleishim yaim. And he got tamei on day 30. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer, but Rabbi Eliezer is going to argue in this case of 100. Like, why is he going to argue? Einay seiser ella shleishim. He forfeits only 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Rabbi Eliezer, who before also was the forfeiter, he is known as the forfeiter.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he quick to forfeit? And what is this idea of only 30 days? Note 14.
Mm-hmm.
In Rabbi Eliezer opinion, Tumah on the final day of a term, which in this case it is the day 100, causes forfeiture of only 30 days, not of all the days previously observed, which is in line with what he said before. He should have said before, Slicer as a color. You should have said slicer shleishim yaim.
But we know it's 30.
Right. Okay. He derives from the pasuk as to why this differs from Tumah on day 30 of a standard Nazir, where Rebbe Elazar requires only a 7-day forfeiture.
No, I understand this now. So he's only forfeiting 30 days. So then what happens? He just has to. What happens? According to Eliezer, what does he do if he gets tamei on a day 100? So now, does he cut his hair? No. He has to get tamei. He has to get. Is it like 7 days plus 30?
Sorry. I thought the Mishnah said Slicer Sakal. Rabbi Eliezer says he Slicer Ela Shiva.
Oh, wait. I also thought that. Rabbi Eliezer Eina Slicer Ela Shiva. Which, again, like we said, means it's a deferral.
He's not the forfeiter. Sorry. Like the Godfather.
His Tanakama is the forfeiter.
Right. In that case, he forfeits only 7 days. But here, when it's 100 days, he forfeits. How do you square the two, though?
Because if you recall, hold on. Oh, okay. This case, Nazir Shleishim Yom. In this case, the Tanakama and Rabbi Eliezer are agreeing here. So, which means Rabbi Eliezer is saying that if Nazir Shleishim Yom, Nitma Yom Shleishim, Saiser Es HaKol. So there,
He didn't finish.
you think it means, he's Saiser everything.
Yeah.
What does that Saiser HaKol mean?
Yeah.
According to Rabbi Eliezer and the Tanakama, they're different things, really. That Saiser HaKol, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's everything, but it's everything which is only 30 days. It's only meant to be 30 days. Does that make sense?
No, when it says Slicer Sakal, if a guy says I'm going to be a Nazir for 30 days and he became Tameh on day 30, Slicer Sakal
He loses everything, but in this case, it's only 30 days because he was a Nazir for 30 days.
Right. So he has to become Tahar for 7 days.
Yeah.
And then he starts again.
Starts again. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, he only loses 30 days, not everything. So in a standard 30-day Naziris, those two terms are the same thing.
Right.
Losing 30 days and losing everything is the same. So it comes that last part of the Mishnah and says, if he was a Nazir for 100 days, if he was a Nazir for 100 days. So according to Rabbi Eliezer,
He loses that 30 days. In a standard case, it's all because it's 30 days. But in a case of 100 days, and he becomes Tameh in day 100, and he didn't fulfill it, how much does he forfeit? According to the Tanakama, you lose all 100 days. Rebbe Eliezer says, no, he forfeits only 30 days. In Rebbe Eliezer opinion, Tumah on the final day of a term caused forfeiture of only 30 days, not all the days previously. As to why this differs from Tumah on day 30 of a standard Naziris, where Rebbe Eliezer requires only a 7-day forfeiture. Because really, on the other case of a day 30, he says you lose 7 days. Here, you lose 30 days.
well, because here he said Harini Nazir Mea Yom. Before that was just Harini Nazir.
Okay.
So he
that
actually
could be a
completed the
difference.
full 30 days.
Right.
He completed that term.
No, here also he completed the term.
He didn't because he said Harini Nazir Mea Yom, which means whenever we said you say those, like the 30
you
days, you
gotta
say the 100
really
days,
do those
you have to do the
100.
full day. It's not, we don't say
Got it.
mix the Yom Kikule there.
According to Rebbe Eliezer, though, what's shot in you losing the 30 days?
That's a good question.
Nitma Yom Mea Vechad, if you became Tameh on day 101, after he said 100, Slicer Shleishim Yom,
Tanakama would hold you lose 30 days.
30
still.
days. And Rebbe Eliezer, in a Slicer Ela Shiva, he forfeits only 7 days, meaning he just needs to hold. Forfeit's not the right word, but it just means it postpones
Defers.
him 7 days.
Yes.
Okay, that is the Mishnah.
Okay. Now we're up to the Gemara. The first half of this recording was recorded in the morning, and now we have night Seder. We're going to start the Gemara.
Winnie's my night voice.
This is the first time we've had two separate daf sessions on the same daf. Anyway, so okay. So we do have a very long Mishnah, Rabbi Binyomin.
Yes.
And I'm noticing that the Gemara is even shorter than the Mishnah.
And there's just a bit. I love. That's cool. You know what that means? That means they did a good job in the Mishnah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's very long, but you covered it all.
but they kept it like very punchy, very clear, no ambiguities.
Right. Okay, so the Gemara repeats the case it wishes to discuss. We're Tazayin Amid Aleph, 2 lines down from the bottom. Misha Amar Redi Nazir. Someone who said, I am hereby a Nazir, V'nitma Yom Shleishim, and he became tummy on day 30. Seiser as a call, he forfeits all his days according to the Tanakama. He has to become tar for 7 days, then he has to start again. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Ina Seiser Elish Shabbat. He forfeits only 7, which means once he becomes tar in 7 days, he can then cut his hair and bring the karbanis. Right?
Yep, just a deferral.
Savar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds kol achas melois. All tumors, of course, after conclusion of the term, shiva seiser, if it's only 7 days. It delays the concluding rituals only by 7 days, needed for purification. This applies when tumor occurs on day 30. Since according to Rabbi Eliezer, it has come after the completion of the term.
And like we said this morning, so too if it would happen on day 31, 32, 33. I think that's after the term. You're good. It's in the box.
Right.
It's in the vault.
Okay, now the Gemara quotes the next case of the mission and explains Rabbi Eliezer's position. Hare Nazir Shleish 9. I said I'm a Nazir for 30 days. V'nitma Yom Shleishim, and he became Tameh on day 30. Seiser Sakal, he forfeits everything. Like Polig Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer does not differ. Damar Shleiman, what the person said, whole days, right? This case of the Mishnah, he said, I'm a Nazir for 30 days. The other case,
Oh, here he's not arguing that.
1 second, he said, Misha Marini Nazir. Oh, he just said, I'm a Nazir. Here, he's actually saying the amount of days. He comes to me on day 30. So he says a call. He forfeits all the days. And in that case, Rabbi Eliezer didn't argue.
Exactly.
Right? Yep. I probably Rabbi Eliezer to Amr Shleim because Rabbi Eliezer does not differ, doesn't argue, because the person said whole days. Since the person explicitly specified 30 days, this implies that he means 30 whole days. Rabbi Eliezer doesn't differ from the Tanakh, the Amr Shleiman, because the person technically said 30 days. When you say just Haredi Nazir, you're not necessarily meaning the full 30.
There you go.
Haredi Nazir Me'yad. The word, of course, the next case in the mission refers to the reader to the earlier discussion in chapter 1. Haredi Nazir Me'yad, where someone said, I am a Nazir for 100 days. And he became Tameh on day 100. He says a call, papar, he forfeits all. According to the Tanakh, he has to then become tar for 7 days, and then on the 207th day,
Oh, Yomi.
he will have to be, he'll have to then wrap it up. Rabbi Eliezer, I remember Rabbi Eliezer in a illustration. He forfeits only 30 days, so he has to become tar in 7 days, and on day 137, he then wraps it up. The entire Mishnah may be explained in accordance with our analysis according to Barpada and Rav Masmor about the sense that 29 days, 30 days, you have an entire case where you went to 30 days. According to Barpada, all these cases, it's interesting that there's no note.
Yeah, I know. So I think because you have to go back to 1 and 2. I'm looking, there's big 1s and 2s. But just for all the listeners, or Masna was the one who says that Stam is 30, right? And Rafada said Stam is 29.
So yeah, according to Barpada, it all makes sense. You got your 29 days. Wait, why according to
You're saying
the answer then? They clip it for.
So you're saying according to Rafada, you never have to come on to the idea of mechza, that a partial day counts as a full day.
Right.
Right? You don't have to come on to that because the term is done when it comes to day 30.
According to Rav Masa, this is because the Rabbi Eliezer counts part of the final day.
It was a full day. Right.
A full day.
Mixes Shem.
Hold on, Rav Masa, Rav Hada, Tamayim?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that I'm right. So according to Rav Masno, it says you need 30 days. This is because Rabbi Eliezer counts part of the final day as a full day, even though the Gregorians are not been brought, and that's why you finished it. According to Rav Hada, this is because the standard term has 29 days, and he only became Tameh on day 30. It works out fine. Okay. Now we are up to a Mishnah. on Tez Zayin Amud Beis. And it will take us to the top of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, which is where we will end tonight. Okay, take away the Mishnah ribbon there.
Mishenazar
We really have a song in our vernacular, like in our album, this is about a Nazir. Like Ben Bad was
right.
like what like we don't really have any rocking. Yeah, we don't have any rocking Nazir sounds.
It's interesting.
There's a market for this.
Yes. Every Masaf that you learn there, you come across a song. I used to be part of a Daf Yomi Shir for Tzviako. For Tzviako Stein.
Yeah.
And there was a guy in the Shir who always would find a song. Like in every Daf, you'd find a song for the Daf. I wonder if I would call him up, ask him. He might have a song for us.
Big shout out to Zichru. Zichru's in the Mishpacha magazine this week.
Oh.
The app that helps people remember. And today's, I didn't realize that their first reference in their animation is something to do with the daf. So today it's Tez Zayin, it's the Tasmanian devil. Taz.
Oh, it was. You said that to me, and I was like, all right.
Watch our editor Nathan show a photo of the Tasmanian.
Thank you, Nathan.
But yeah, isn't that interesting? Like Yad, yesterday it had a juggler to the hand.
I just want to do with the jug. Some of these things I don't get.
Yeah, no, there's a little bit of reference
to mnemonic.
They want you to say, okay, that case of the cemetery, or number Taz jumped in with the big hairy feet. And I looked up Google and said Taz had hairy feet. Like,
now I want to go back and try to like.
By the way, I bet they put like secret stuff in there. They want people to get it. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's probably.
Someone's probably having a lot of fun.
It's so I messaged them. I watched this video today about how to learn a language in 6 months. So I sent it to Zifru because some of the things they were referencing, Zifru talks about with like picturing, like you don't think of Aish means fire, you think of a picture of fire, and that's what Aish is. You don't think Aish fire, you think Aish is, and you think of a picture of fire. You have an easier time remembering it.
It's like a sight word?
Yeah.
My kids are sight words.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's how you learn other languages. That was part of it. So I sent it to Zifru, and they said, oh, send it to our founder, Sahim Eldatin, or visit
Okay. All right. Maybe they'll shout out Chavrusa Daf.
Oh, I mean, it's not like kosher money's behind this week's Mishpacha either, but whatever. Okay, go ahead.
Mishenazar Avahu Bevesa Kars. Oh, wow. So, like, you're ready to strike one over here. Afilu Hayasham Shleishim Yaim. Even if he was there.
Not crazy, by the way, because not Nazir says Kedusha, and they just buried a loved one, and now he wants to attain a higher level of Kedusha. So he immediately says Hareini Nazir.
Okay. Afilu Hayasham Shleishim Yaim. Even if he slept in a cemetery for 30 days, following his Nazir's declaration, Ein Eilen Lei Min HaMinyan. The days in the cemetery are not reckoned for him in the count of his term. Ein maybe carbon tama. He doesn't bring a carbon for tama. What does this mean? Oh, meaning he doesn't have to go the 7 days of purification.
I'm out.
Oh no! So yeah.
Or the person who contracts tumor from the dead, and he's going to do a 7-day purification process to make the tahar again. On the 3rd and 7th day, the person is sprinkled with water, which has been mixed with the ashes of the parajid. Following the sprinkling on the 7th day, he must immerse himself in a mikveh, after which he is tar. This procedure is standard to anyone who does tummy with corpse and applies whether or not the person has been a nazir. In addition to the standard procedure, a Nazir who became tummy must shave his head on the 7th day of purification. On the 8th day, must open a kabbanas. However, this pertains only to Nazir who became tummy sometime after his Nazir is born. And as stated here by the Mishnah, a Nazir who was tummy from the start does not bring the sacrifice for tumult. The Torah decides whoever both the Nazir who was tar became tummy during his Nazir's offerings. Therefore, one who accepts his Nazir's himself on the cemetery is not required to bring the offerings. A regular Nazir must bring upon purification. This rule applies to one who accepted Nazir's while tummy, which goes up. So how does he become tar? Just to wait 7 days?
oh, give me generally.
So what does he do?
And you need to be tar to start, right? Even if you're not bringing a carbon.
So, okay, mikvah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, let's continue the Tasmanian debtor story.
Yishin has moved basic course. I feel like Yisham Shashim Ein Ayla Minaminian, but in maybe carbon tuma. Isn't to bring a carbon for the tuma. Yatsa, the nichnas, but if he left the cemetery and then re-entered after being purified of his tuma. Oh, he left the cemetery, underwent the 7-day purification process.
Tell me this case, the second case from the beginning. He says Haredi Nazir while he's in a cemetery.
Yeah.
He stays there for 30 days,
Yeah.
and then and then he walks out,
Then he walks out.
and he does what he needs to do to become tar.
Yeah. Yes. So yes.
Oh, then he comes back in. Oh, so now he's Tameh. Now he was Tahar and then became Tameh. Then you have to bring them carbon.
Yeah, I think I'm with you a little bit. I'm still not exactly clear when he's becoming tahar. Like, it says it doesn't get, like, those 30 days in the cemetery don't count for him as part of his Naziris. But to me, it's like, well, obviously he can't count for him as Naziris. He's tameh.
Right.
So I'm not really sure.
I don't think that's the Kiddush.
Right.
The Kiddush is when do you bring a carbon for Tumwek? If you were never Tahar at any point in your Naziris, you're not going to bring a carbon when you want to get over your tumor. You don't have to bring a carbon. You don't bring a carbon in order to get rid of your tumor. Normally it is. When is it? When he says, I'm going to be a Nazir, he's in a cemetery for 30 days, He walks out, does what he needs to do to become Tahar. Then he re-enters. Oh, in that case, once he comes out, he's going to have to bring a carbon after.
For the tuma, the tuma.
Right. After, because at some point in the Nazir, he was Tahar. On day 31, when he walked out, he did the whole thing, and then at day 38, he walks right to his car. And
Then he went back in.
right then, you become Tameh, and then it's like, when you're Tameh, think about it, like when you're Tameh, I'm not going to tell you to bring a but when you're Tar, then you become Tameh, and you're Nazir, then you have to.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So let's start again. Misha Nazir Ube Sekvars. Those days we don't count for him. They're certain, but we also have maybe Karbatoma. But Yatzav and Itnas, if he left and then came back in after, he left the cemetery, became Tahar, and then went back into the cemetery. Then Oilin Laymin a minion.
I have a question.
Who may be Karban Toma.
You just reiterated it before the Rabbi Eliezer part? Yes?
Yeah.
If a guy walks into a cemetery, he's Tameh, right? And then he walks out, does he have to bring a carbon?
A Nazir or?
No, it's direct.
No, he doesn't have to bring a carbon.
Oh, no? Oh, the carbon is from the Nazir.
The carbon is, note 3 said that there's a special, something that pertains to a Nazir, when during his term becomes somebody has to bring certain special Tuma carbonos out there about it. Yeah. It's not usher to become Tameh. Here you're Yisrael, and you become Tameh. You're not bringing carbonos every time you come to Tameh. You have to do the mikvah. But a Nazir has to bring carbonos if you become a Tameh.
Right. And Rabbi Eliezer, you're reading which note?
I was going to look at 5 and 6. What does it mean? Oilin laymin a minion umayvi carbon tuma.
Okay, if he left the cemetery and re-entered it after being purified of his tumor, it is reckoned for him in the account of his term and engraving. Yeah, what does that mean? Oilin min a minion.
So it says, his Naziris count begins even before the end of the 7th day of purification, as soon as he is finished with the sprinkling and immersion mentioned in note 3. The Mishnah means that the time from the immersion until his re-entry into the cemetery is reckoned as part of his Naziris term.
And then when he walks back in, what happens?
So the Tumah contracted by re-entering the cemetery causes forfeiture of whatever Naziris he observed until then. So maybe it was like a couple of days. So the phrase is reckoned here does not mean that the days are actually deducted from his term. Rather, it means that his Naziris commenced, so that by re-entering the cemetery, he becomes subject to the law of a Nazir Star and then becomes Tameh.
It resets.
Yeah, not only resets, but now it resets, and therefore, if he becomes Tameh, he has to bring the Chabanos down.
Right, it's cool.
Yeah.
He forfeits what those few days that just gained at the Nazir, and now he also has to bring the carbon.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is telling us.
Tanakam.
Yeah. So Elon mini maybe covered Tama. Eliezer Aimer, Loy Boy Bayayim. No, it is not forfeit if he read the cemetery on that same day on which he left it. Meaning he does not have to bring the karbanas Tama. Shenamar Bahayamim Arishainim Giplo. It says in a pasuk in Bamidbar, but the first days shall be forfeit, which teaches that Adat Shayu Lo Yamim Nishainim. There is no forfeiture until there are first days.
So give me, which case is Rabbi Eliezer talking about? A guy said, take it from the top. When someone says, I'm a Nazir, when he's in a cemetery, and sits there for 30 days, leaves, and then he becomes, he becomes tahar, and then the day he becomes, so that's it. He walks back into the cemetery.
That's exactly where the machlokes is.
What is that? When? No, there's not forfeit if he re-enters the cemetery on that same day in which he left it. Mm-hmm. So, what, after those first 30 days, he left it and then walked right back in? It's not tahar.
No, the day that he became tar, he walked back in.
Oh, the day he became tahar, he walked back in. According to the Tanakama, he forfeited those days. But it doesn't say that, Binyomin. It says he does not forfeit on that same day in which he left it. Note 7. Rabbi Eliezer maintains that if a Nazir becomes tummy on the first day of his term, he does not forfeit that day, and on becoming tar, he continues his count with day 2. Thus, if the Nazir enters the cemetery after his immersion, right, and on the same day as his immersion, let's re-enter the cemetery after his immersion, and on the
Same day of his immersion.
he will continue his count from day 2 as soon as he becomes tar. Why is both math or whether we're on 10 and the third day's service or simply fill? Yeah, this is a lot. Wow. Forfeit if he re-enters. So
We're changing what I thought the whole thing was, do you have to bring the karbanos or not? Right. The end of this note is like, it seems like it's not even talking about that. It's actually talking about those, like how many days is counted towards his Naziris. Sounded like in the first part of the Mishnah when we were explaining it, was like, we're not even thinking about counting his tahar days because he's tameh. Like, the whole question was about, does he have to bring these karbanos tamah? Now we're talking about actually this day 1, day 2, like how many days is he into this Nazir? And the end of this note is now saying it's not clear whether, according to Nazir, the Nazir who became tummy in the first day of his term is also excluded from the special sacrifice for Tumah. I thought it was Pasha's that he doesn't have to bring the karbanos Tumah if he goes in the same day. I thought they thought that was the drasha.
What? So give me the case of Rabbi Eliezer. What's happening? The guy says, I'm a Nazir. He's in the cemetery. Is this the case of Rabbi Eliezer?
Yeah, it's saying he re-entered the cemetery. So whatever case this is, Rabbi Eliezer is talking about re-entering a cemetery. So it can't be the first case. In the first case, he just stays there.
Right? Okay, so, but at some point he was there. That's how it starts.
But it's talking about Yatzav and Niflim. At some point, you're right, he was there. While he was there, he wanted to be a Nazir. At some point he leaves.
Shut up, you stole this. And he leaves.
At some point he leaves. And then when he comes back, he leaves, he goes through an immersion process.
Okay.
And then he goes back in. Now, when, though, is you're wondering, what day was his immersion? And then did he go on that day back in the cemetery? Did he wait a few days? So,
on day 7, when he immersed, he went right back into the cemetery.
That's what I think. And let's just reread note 7. Rabbi Eliezer maintains that if a Nazir becomes tameh on the first day of his term, he does not forfeit that day. And on becoming tar, he continues his count with day 2. So basically, Rabbi Eliezer holds, right? Mixas yam kulkulai. If you become tameh, you ready. Even though since you are partly tar and partly tameh on that day 1, it's counted as day 1. When you start and you start again, you already had a day. Does that make sense? So just read that first.
Yeah, so that day, that down, it's D1. So then when it becomes Tahar again in 7 days from there, that's actually, it'll be day 2.
Good.
Which is different than the Tanakhama. Why? Because the Tanakhama says to start, that would be day 1, right?
Like, yeah, we said we don't count any, right, what he's, right. And that's saying you don't get any days there.
And the reason Eliezer says such is because it says about Yamim Harishanim Yiplu, but the first days shall be forfeit, which teaches that there is no forfeiture until there are first days. The full work days indicate that a minimum of 2 days are forfeited. Thus, only Nazir becomes tummy from his second day on is subject to forfeiture. The Chama understand the pasuk as stressing that all the prior days of the Nazir's term, not just 1 day, right? Because they say maybe you became Tamar before the day of immersion. So you have a few days, that's why it's plural, and you lose all of that. One part of the difference between Rabbi Eliezer and Tanakam is when you start becoming Tahar. According to the Tanakam, you became a Tahar before that day you immersed. You didn't have to immerse.
How many you became Tahar before that? Okay.
Right? And that's why the pasuk says this plural case and you forfeit all of that. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the fact that it says days is talking about only a case where on day 2 we have plural days. It should only become tar on the day you worked. Okay.
We don't keep it on my good yet.
Okay. Nope. Okay. The Gemara opens with this dispute between Rabbi Yezin and Reish Lakish on a legal question pertaining to the case of one who accepts the Nazir's law in a cemetery. Itmar.
We've had Rabbi Yefan and Reish Lakish.
We did.
They were talking about, something of locks of hair. It is Nazir, but
yeah. You know what's interesting? I was thinking today, in my spare time, that if you said, hey, what is Nazir about? Misafta, the Mishnah, the Gemara, I would say it's about like the laws pertaining to cutting hair, drinking wine, what type of wine, like more about that type of, like Shimshon HaGibar, and like talking about the stories, I got it done, the Nazir, why is the Nazir, and really up until now, it's really just been about like the verbal, what he says verbally and what the impact is, and the intent and the time span that it locks the person in. That's really what we've been doing for most of the times he's been locked.
For sure. Yeah, it's a bit more technical.
Yeah, like Harini Nazir is like, that's the crux of most of what we're talking about. It's not like the aforementioned items, like drinking wine, the story of Simpson, like, I guess, like what happens if a guy accidentally touch, wine, or, I don't know, like that's what I would have pontificated the sect is about, and really it's not much to do with that. Yeah, I'm not saying how many Parakim, there's quite a few Parakim, and could be the other Parakim talk about that.
Yeah, I feel like when they, like the Tanam and the Maram, they expect that by the time you get to the Mishnah and the Gemara, you already know the Psukim colds. You understand that there's a mitzvah of Nazir, what the Isser of Nazir is, what the Karbanas are, meaning the what they're expecting you to know. And then it's like, now let's break it down into so many components and we'll be like, what about this case? And like it's like case law. I'm a lawyer here.
Yeah.
Your brother Avi a little?
He is a little, yeah.
It's like I feel like Gemara is like, now it's like case law.
Right.
What about this case? What about that case? So now Itmar, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yechanan. Let's see. Misha Nazir basic It's like crazy case. Someone's a Nazir while he's in a cemetery. You didn't expect this, right? Rabbi Yechanan Amar Nazir Skala Reish Lakish Amar and Nazir Skala. So that's actually what I was originally thinking. Like, if you're in a basic farce, it shouldn't even that should be obvious. Like you said, the guy maybe he knew the whole thing. He's feeling something,
right?
And he obviously wanted to take upon himself, but maybe that shouldn't take upon him like right now.
Right.
It should wait a little bit.
So, which I wonder if someone says like, "I'll be a Nazir." Weirdo road. Yeah, because in the Sabbath period, it spoils everything. But Rabbi Yechanan says, the Nazir starts right away. And note 10, Rashi explains, he's forbidden to drink wine and cut his hair.
Moreover, he's subject to lashes if they ignore the warning by 2 witnesses that as a Nazir, he must leave the Sabbath.
So he's got to leave the
So
Sabbath.
say in the Mishnah, since he was tummy from the onset of Nazirus, he's not obligated with a special sacrifice for Tzillah.
Right.
So,
And according to Reish
on his day start already?
according to Yochanan, it would start that day. Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not.
That's what he said.
And if he stays there for 30 days?
Okay, everybody said.
But the problem is, no. It starts, but then will he actually have 30 days yet? No, he's going to have to like go until,
Can you pull the lever on this?
exactly. So according to Reish Lakish, what does he do, right? It says, "In Nazir's call." So note 11 says, he's not yet bound by Nazir's restrictions. So technically, he could cut his hair in that cemetery, right? He could drink his last cup of wine before he leaves. He is, however, obligated to leave the cemetery, become tahar, and adopt Nazirus. But he's not doing anything wrong because obviously while he's in the cemetery and he's accepting upon himself
I mean,
this.
he should really drink the wine because maybe while he's walking. While he's walking. Like, do it while you're walking because we really want you to leave.
Ooh, there you go. Cup on the go. Well, because you drink, you're supposed to be still make a bracha, you're not supposed to be walking.
So, Rabbi,
Cutting his hair, you didn't it?
so Reish Lakish says that the lever is not pulled.
There you go.
Rabbi Yochanan Amar and Nazir's Kala Allah, Rabbi Yochanan said that Nazir's takes it back, and then Server Milsa Talia Bekaima hold that Nazir's of Tahara is held in abeyance. Guess it's suspended over his head.
Oh, I was going to see what that word meant.
It looked a little like a baya. The English word in the Arch Guide, you're not Rabbi staying listening on YouTube, it says A-Y-A-N-C-E, spelled in abayer. Not a word we use in our everyday dialect. Kavan Damash the Tara Kaila. Therefore, as soon as he finds Tara, it takes it back without an additional declaration. Reish Lakish Amar in Nazir scholar over Reish Lakish who said that Nazir does not take effect on him. Iyadar v'Amar Chaylan. He holds that if he reiterate his adoption of Nazir something counter it takes effect. We life. If it's not now. So according to Reish Lakish, he really didn't say anything.
Whoa, I didn't understand that when we first read it. I mean, it basically sounds like for both of them, it's actually not taking effect yet. While they're at the cemetery, it's not in effect. Because I was thinking on the other side, but yeah, it did not take effect. Even according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's held, it's being totally in the air, and even the mishkat tarachayla. It's only once he becomes tar, then it starts. And Reish Lakish,
It's like you according to Rabbi Yochanan, you activated a water balloon up Nazir, suspended right there. And then once you become tar and you leave and you become tar, that falls on your head and it activates.
Right.
To do anything. Once you become tar, it drops and it falls on your head and it pops to your mouth, right?
Sure.
According to Reish Lakish, that it doesn't take effect. And I initially thought when I read this Gemara that it's as if he said nothing. But if you remember, it's not as if he said nothing. Because he has to leave and become tar. It's an chiyuv on him to do it again.
to repeat, oh yeah,
It's a chiyuv on him. He's obligated now to go through the motions and then say it like a man.
right.
Okay?
Is there a chiyuv? Is it a chiyuv?
Well, that's what it said. It said in note 11, he's not yet bound by the Nazir's restriction. Right? Explaining Reish Lakish.
And he has to leave, but now that he
He is,
left,
however, obligated to leave the cemetery, become tar, and verbally, it doesn't say verbally, and adopt Nazirus. So he
okay, that's part of it to adopt the Nazir.
right. So it's almost like the water balloon is over his head. Said it not yet. Yeah, once he leaves, the water balloon appears over his head, and then he has to verbally pop that balloon with another statement. But that water balloon didn't go over his head until it became tar. He just got pushed by the Tasmanian devil out of the cemetery. That was his clue. It was one. We always, where he had a thief to get the ball rolling. And then once he became tar, the water balloon forms over his head. Now it's ready, but it won't pop without verbally pop. Go on, Krishna. I'm sorry for this far-fetched.
I like it's helping you visualize it.
There. You for the next 3 hours. Very good.
Note 13, and since the initial declaration does not take effect, that is, there's a hard trigger any of the other laws either. Nevertheless, for the person who does tar, it does not need to clear again. If everybody knows that it does not need to.
Let's give a whole shot. Very good pop.
Naziris will be affected by simply referring to his previous commitment with a statement such as, the Naziris shall now take effect.
That's how this was. That's how they say it. No, you know what's simple that you ever hear the they go,
The Naziris shall now take effect. What is to the hearing judge?
I don't know. It must be in the cycle. It's all have to like really read the Mishnah but
You think they're doing everything on purpose?
yeah, it's so. I mean, it's not like the most professional
In the entirety of the shop.
in the sense that like they're doing it. They have a lot to do. Meaning, if you look at it, it's not like when I say professionals, like graphics. Like, yeah, the graphics are not like built out. I think part of it they want it to be a little bit core. Yeah, it's like full flat polished to be like, oh, it's just like in the other video I did.
I actually watch with my kids at night.
Yeah.
Shazak Parsha videos.
Yeah.
Because forever, like, I was like, Shazak.
Yeah.
S-H, Shazak. S-H-A-Z-A-K or Q, okay? And it's like the Parsha, but in like cartoon. But it's more like it like started as a comic book, and then they just did like voiceovers on top of a comic. So just like we'll like, zoom in on the comic strip, and then go to another one like Paro, and it's like just you know. So it kind of reminds me of this. I wonder if they do anything, but it's worth a watch with your kid if they're interested in the Parsha.
Okay, maybe I could sponsor Chavrusa Daf. I don't know how to tell you this, but Rabbi Yochanan is not happy with Reish Lakish.
No.
Ace they Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan has a question on Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish, that one who said he has to leave and it's not suspended above his head until he becomes tar, and then he has to verbally reference it in order for that balloon, which appears dead, to pop. We have learned in the Mishnah, someone who declared Nazir's while he was in the cemetery, even though he was there for 30 days, in minyan. He's not. The days in the cemetery are not part of the count. Then he may be carbon tumah. He does not bring the sacrifice for tumah. Carbon tumah who delay maisi. This implies that this case is exceptional, only that he does not bring the sacrifice for the tumah. In regards to the seers taking effect, it does take effect on him. Right? We're showing that in our Mishnah, this idea that you're there for 30 days ain't relevant in a minyan, and it may be carbon tumah, does not bring the sacrifice for tumah. We don't see anything about having verbally mention it, or even before that. Yeah, that's enough to make a balloon. Yeah,
Exactly. That's
Amarle, Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, able to besayras tumah ve'ein besayras kavod. Mishnah means that he's neither subject to the law for being tumah, nor to the subject of leading a special tumah sacrifice. This idea, when the Mishnah says in note 15, the day in the cemeteries are not reckoned for him in the count, this means that the declaration in the cemetery does not produce Naziris at all. It does not even produce a suspended Nazir to take effect when the person leaves the cemetery, becomes tar. Thus, if he didn't contract tumah before he activates the Nazir spell, even after becoming tar, he will not be obligated to offer the dose of a special tumah sacrifice. And this is what the Mishnah means by because lawfully sacrifice for tumah. Inspector, read that again. Shop and put those to the blood. Well, it does not even produce a suspended as if they could cut whether the person leaves there with the blood out of his shoulder.
Walk your line.
Thus, if he again connects sure before he activates his vow, you don't have to confirm nothing at all. Right, because she's not according to her slap, she's not us.
right. So Rishon's just reading it as when he's saying, "Oh, you don't bring the carbon? Yeah, you don't bring the carbon. You're also not Nazir."
Right, that means everything.
Means everything. Exactly.
Okay, but
We're adding another question.
before Bidman challenges Lakish, and now he's going to challenge him again.
Yeah.
They say, Misha Hayat Tameh Benazir, someone who was Tameh. There's a bright. So someone who was Tameh and declares Naziris is forbidden to cut his hair, to drink wine, and to contract tumah from the dead. And if he cut his hair, then Pilak Bashasu Yain Yid Millimeter, and if he cut his hair, to drink wine or contract tumah from the dead, I raise a sight against happening them that he receives 40 rashes. He had marked the Bashlam Like if you say a fact when Naziris adapted while he was Tameh, he takes a fag, I in time in the sight against happening. That is the reason. Which Kate, by the way?
Mishaya Tameh Benazir. Someone was Tameh and he sat already Nazir.
Oh, someone who was Tameh with Naziris.
Yeah. So it sounds similar basically to the cemetery.
Right, like he's Tameh and then he declares Naziris. If you say, in fact, that Nazir's adopted while he was Tamei takes effect, that's the reason they receives 30 lashes. Yeah, if I'll say it does not take effect on my side because I believe why occurs you, Reish Lakish, does he receive?
Yeah, you didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, it's a brisa, right? Reish Lakish says I'm like that brisa, no? Like,
No, Reish Lakish is in a lawyer. Something has to.
even though he has to work according to brisa also.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What are we going there in this case? With someone who leaves his state of tumah by becoming tar and re-enters a state of tumah. So in this case, firstly, anywhere that person was tummy and then declared Naziris, it's not just a simple case. This brisa note one says is not referred to someone who declared Naziris while tummy, and while in that state of tummy drank wine, for example. Such a person would not receive lashes according to Reish Lakish, since the Nazir's declaration, which one made while tummy, is ineffective in his opinion. As the brisa is referring to someone who became talar, then reconfirmed the Naziris which he had declared while tummy, and then became, brisa is referring to someone who became tar, then reconfirmed the Naziris which he had declared while tummy, and then again became tummy. Only the latter tummy suggests the person to lashes. The point of the brisa is that reconfirming the Naziris by saying the Nazir shall now take effect is sufficient in this case, and it's not necessary to state I'm hereby Nazir. See, he's saying that this brisa is saying a whole lot more than
He's saying today, which is similar to what he did in the previous case. He added in, it's not just karbatama, it's also nothing, no Nazir.
Yeah, okay,
Here,
that's a little bit more.
we should tell me another.
More understanding. Like, when it says this, it means all of them. Here, he's like adding a ton of words. Like, no, he wasn't just Tamei and he became a Nazir. He actually went out, became tar, and then he came back. And by the way, if he said, I'm the Nazirs. He referenced the Nazirs and is teaching you that you don't have to say already Nazir again. Like,
Big chser mechser.
yeah. Acer, Bechon challenge Reish Lakish on the basis of the following brisa. This is the third, Reish Lakish is just getting beaten in the sense that, like,
We're trying, but
Reish Lakish, and he's
fighting back.
I can't wait for Reish Lakish to go after a big one.
Wait for it.
There's another brisa. Ein bein tamei shenazar lenazar tar shenitma. There is no difference between a tamei person who declared a Naziris and a Nazir tar who became tamei, except that a tamei person Ella tamei should
Ein bein tamei shenazar lenazar tahar shenitmo. The difference between a tamei person who's declared Naziris and a Nazir tar who became... Okay, sorry. And now I understand what that was said.
No. There is no difference between a tamei person who declared Naziris, the guy in the cemetery, and a Nazir tar, someone who's a Nazir, and when he becomes tamei. Ella tari shenazar, except that a tamei person who declared Naziris, shvi shaloi oilo leimin, and the seventh day is reckoned for him and
The first day of his term, right? When he becomes tahar that seventh day.
after a tamei person declared Naziris. One hears, except that a tamei person
Down in the cemetery.
right? The seventh day is reckoned. It's true. So he became a Nazir. Which seventh day?
He has to become tahar, and after he gets up from the
That seventh day. This is first.
as Mr. Shempulik.
We wanted just brought a story.
The Nazir wasn't that according to one person?
Yeah, I think so. But this is a brisa, so it could be, and is that verse?
Okay, but Nazir tar shenitma, whereas a Nazir taru, he's a Nazir tar. He never went to a cemetery, and then he becomes tamei. Ein shvi shavloi oilo loydit lamin. The seventh day is not reckoned for him on account of his tar.
Because he has to bring a special tumah sacrifice. Remember, he has to bring 8 karbanos on day 8.
Yeah, so that seventh day is not there. Okay, but Isa got to play fire. Is that the question?
So that was just the brisa, and here's the question.
Esau the dice that plays and in mind that the Nazirs does not take it back if he declares it while spame, and if it's someone that this year does not take it back if he declares it while tamei, to my which guy is this talking about?
For asking on Reish Lakish, right? Rav Yehuda says while he's in the cemetery, it takes effect. Reish Lakish says it doesn't take effect. You have to afterwards say.
But which Nazir is it referring to in this question? The Nazir became tamei. The Nazir tar became.
Nazir, I think we're talking about a Tameh Shenazar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. And if it should enter your mind,
Is that equivalent to our case?
right, and if it should enter your mind that the Nazir does not take effect if he declares it while Tameh, my and why is the seventh day reckoned in the account? He has not adopted any term. Oh, right, because he still has to say verbally.
So he doesn't have a term yet until it's a cop.
Right.
So how can you count it for something that didn't even start yet?
Well, he can say it's just missing this price. So you're just missing the fact that he said,
On that 7th day.
no, right on the seventh day, and then he said, oh yeah, I'm a Nazir.
Yeah.
Or Nazir.
Whoa, doesn't answer that.
No, it says since Reish Lakish's position has been found untenable, the Gemara revises its understanding.
Before the...
Oh, what?
Why is it your answer's a great answer?
That what?
You just said
Yeah.
answer for him.
Yeah, I did.
You should say the way,
I mean, that was the theme of the
Note 4.
Yeah.
Raisa cannot be talking about a case in which immediately following immersion, the person reconfirmed the Nazir is looking for hell. He said. That's what he should say.
Oh, someone said that you said 2,000 years ago. It's like, go with last. I was like, okay.
Okay, well, I said, if so, the difference between the two situations is much simpler. The one who was a Nazir Tahar who became Taman, these reconfirmation of his Nazir. The one who was Taman at the time of his original declaration will be bound by Nazir only if he reconfirms his commitment. Since no such difference is mentioned, it's clear the Bryce assumes the person to be bound by the declaration he made while Taman.
What does this mean?
He's saying that it would be a lot harder to stick it into this third case.
Why?
Because in this case, you would have to fit this declaration both into the case of, like the guy in a cemetery and a Stam Nazir that became Tameh, right? He was Paul's. And right, and you have to like figure out when is he saying it in each of those cases.
Why?
Right, because things
Since no difference is mentioned, then it's hard to say it's a Tesori Mepsi out.
because reading in would be very different in each of those cases.
Right.
Okay, so now we don't. So
We're going to have to re-explain what Reish Lakish.
right, we have a good question, Rish Lakish. All right,